I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the co-promoter of the World Seniors Darts Tour, Jason Francis. Thanks for the time again, Jason. How are you doing?
Lovely to hear from you.
Well, there's plenty to get to, but we'll first circle back to when we last had you on the show, October of last year, so around 4 months before the first World Seniors Darts Championship was held. What were those, last few months and weeks of build-up like heading to the Circus Tavern in that first event?
Yeah, it's been a real steep learning curve for me. I think I'd like to think I probably know a bit more now about darts than I did at the start, but it's been exciting. It's been challenging at times, but there's no doubt that the response from people has shown that the product was sort of probably well overdue and has been very well received.
And of course, before then, we did see a qualifier for the last few spots at the Circus Tavern. That took place in November. I think there was over 100 players that entered those qualifiers. Were you pleased with that initial turnout for that first qualifier? Yeah, definitely was. And very pleased with the standard as well. I think that was always the big unknown with the Seniors Tour. And I think that right from day one of the qualifiers, it was pretty clear that this was going to be seriously competitive and the averages were going to be pretty tasty as well. And then February rolls round, the World Seniors Championship is finally here. As the co-promoter, with it being 10 months in the making since that first announcement, what was it like for you seeing the idea finally come to fruition that weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. And I think, there's moments that you kind of... It took so long to get on and then it passed in a blur. But there was so many memorable moments. And a few sort of stay with me. Obviously, for Robert Thornton, it was an unbelievable moment. He wrote his name into darting history. But seeing Phil back playing, seeing the walk-on ovation John Lowe got, I'll never forget that. And yeah, it's as I say, it's been incredible. Really, I don't think we could have asked for a better sort of first year of events, coming from where we'd come from.
As you mentioned, there were a lot of special moments that weekend. The event, it did get free-to-air coverage via the BBC iPlayer, and after a few teething problems with the production on the first night, it was well received by darts fans, provided some great moments. What were your main takeaways as a promoter from that first event, putting it on?
Well, I think the first night, you can't hide behind the fact that we had some sound issues, and really we were a victim of our own success. We could not, obviously, we couldn't test the sound levels of the audience, and we chose to put Ray and Bobby right in the crowd. That was the idea. So, we couldn't do a test event and bring 1,000 people in there, 3 or 4 beers deep singing. So it was a tough first night. No doubt about it, and there's no point making excuses about it. We had to take that one on the chin, work overnight, and then kind of improve. And I think generally people would say now we've come a very long way in the 3 events we've done.
Definitely, we've seen a lot of legends back on the hockey, none bigger than Phil Taylor, and after his probably earlier than expected exit at the Circus Tavern, we've seen him now make 2 finals in the last 2 events. Did you expect to see that reaction from Phil following that first event, him to challenge more for the titles?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he arrived at Lakeside, obviously a very different, I don't want to say animal, but, he'd obviously put some work in. And then you saw again this weekend, he'd upped his game again. And, it's very hard I see this across my other sport as well. These players will never be as good as they were. But for someone, especially Phil Taylor, look at the bar he set. So, whereas some people may only think, well, I've only got a shorter jump to get back to something like I was. For Phil, he changed the game of darts. He ripped up the rule book. So, there's always been a massive amount of expectation on him. And he's someone who really didn't throw a dart right through COVID. So, he probably had a longer journey than anyone else anyway. But, you can see the desires back. You can see how much he hates losing. And that's brilliant. As a promoter, it's brilliant to see that.
And you touched on it as well with the crowd at the Circus Tavern. It looked packed out for the World Championship, so I guess it was a no-brainer to book the same venue again for next year.
Yeah, we want to start building legacy. We want to build, our home of the World Championships will be the Circus Tavern. And hopefully, we're now into year 2 of a very long stay there. We love the venue. It's steeped in history. And it's a cauldron. I mean, and I think some players will be inspired by that. Some of them get intimidated by it, but that's all part of dealing with the tournament darts.
And since then, we've had the World Masters at Lakeside just this past weekend, the World Match Play and Hull, both events with wall-to-wall coverage on BT Sport. How pleasing has it been to have BT get behind all of these events?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, we've been incredibly lucky with our broadcast partners and our tour sponsors. Because, without them, one has to lead the other. You're not going to attract sponsorship without TV coverage. And, you need the TV coverage to get the sponsors. So it's, we've been incredibly lucky that everyone who started with us at the Lakeside, at the Tavern, in terms of sponsorship, has stayed with us. And everyone, our broadcast partners. And our events were remember, they were sort of some challenging weekends for other broadcasts. In May, we were up against the Champions League final, of which, Liverpool are probably one of the most followed teams in the world, playing Real Madrid, probably one of the most followed teams in the world as well. So we were up against that. This weekend, we were up against Wimbledon and the British Grand Prix. The fact that we've rated so well when those other things are on has shown that we are developing a real loyal audience.
Good to hear. And we mentioned off air, we asked our listeners to send in their questions. They've got a few to ask you. I know some asked about any future events being covered again by a free-to-air broadcaster. Is there anything in the pipeline for next year? We're going to see the World Championship shown again on the BBC or somewhere else?
Well, I think we're only in July, so in some ways now we've done the three events. We have activity still going on with the qualifiers, and those conversations now have to take place with a wide variety of broadcasters. Before we were going into broadcasters selling them an idea of what we thought it could be. Now we actually have data of what it's done, and we also have footage that we can show. So we're in a much stronger position. I mean, the thing with television is incredibly competitive. There are plenty of people out there who want their products on TV. So, it's very hard. But as I say, we've been delighted that we've managed to broadcast every event live so far. Some on free-to-air channels and some on sort of subscription-based channels. We were in Germany as well this weekend with Sport One, who've covered every event. We've also provided our own sort of pay-per-view streaming link, and I use that very lightly because literally you could see the whole weekend around the world for £10. We were charging £2 a session. So when I say pay-per-view, that was really us just trying to cover our costs, but also make it accessible as possible. So, I think we've done it so that anyone in the world would be able to enjoy senior starts. Just
touching on that, you mentioned that the pay-per-view that's on offer to anyone, I guess. Have you noticed any random places you maybe didn't think would want to watch the senior starts that have picked it up?
Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, there's been so many countries that have, have picked it up, and I think it shows that darts is a global sport. And I'm very aware at the moment, and we probably mentioned this before. If we want to become a world tour, we have to tour the world. So, as we stand at the moment, our three majors are sat within the UK, but ultimately it has to be our goal to kind of place events outside the UK as well and take these senior players all around the world.
Definitely. Well, let's get to some of our listener questions. The first one comes from Warren Allsworth, who says, congrats on a great first year. How will the additional spots for the Senior World Championship be filled, and will the event run with an additional session and day? And this is, of course, the news that come over the weekend that it's been extended from 24 to 32 players next year.
Yeah, so I mean, very simply, scheduling wise, we will add the Thursday afternoon session, which will allow more players to get an opportunity to play in the World Championship. We've already announced that we're going to, as well as rewarding the Order of Merit leader, which has proved to be really popular. And I think the drama of the weekends has not just been about the qualifier. It's about the guys working out their ranking points, who needs to beat who. And it's added a nice bit of drama. But then alongside that, we will also grant a place for the person who's top of the money list, not already invited. So the money list is an interesting one because the money list is open to everyone, be it the invited players or the qualifiers. It means that there are, of course, added benefits for players who qualify for final events as well to earn money for the money list. So, we've definitely committed more opportunities. Whether we will make more places available or less, it's still very early days. But what we're saying is, last year we had sort of 2 players in it, and this year we're saying 4. So, we think we're making progress.
Excellent. Well, the next question comes from Jacko Says Relax, and he says, will you guys be heading back to Lakeside next year?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. I mean, Lakeside was a challenging event. I think the important thing is always to be incredibly honest. It was challenging for us with ticket sales. However, it's probably the venue we do on the tour which is most suited to actually hosting a broadcast darts event. So what I mean by that is, as a venue with its layout, it has the least challenges for sort of TV production, for even things like car parking on site. So, Lakeside as a venue is truly, truly wonderful, and obviously steeped in history. But it has challenges. It's a venue that's not open for much of the year, so people don't get used to going. It doesn't really have its own box office, so we're reliant on selling all the tickets. We don't have access to the database of everyone who's visited darts there across the years, and any promoter will tell you having that sort of data is absolutely vital. So, we very much would like to continue the journey with Lakeside and rebuild the audiences again. But there are a number of factors involved in those discussions. So no news on that at the moment. But, hand on heart, we'd love to continue working with the Lakeside. But I hope everyone understands it has to make commercial sense.
Definitely. Well, the next one, this is based on another announcement from the weekend that there's going to be a 4th televised event from the World Seniors next year. Oki Balboa asking what is going to be that 4th TV event next year.
Well, we've not gone into too much detail on that yet, and it's not because we're trying to, keep everyone guessing. It's just that, verbal agreements have been made, but until contracts are signed, we can't actually announce that. But what we can say is that it will carry the golden ticket, and that's going to be somewhere slightly different. Where on that Friday before the weekend, the whole tour will have the chance to descend on the venue, get their darts out, knowing that one of them will be on TV the next day in a ranking event. So, as I say, we will call it the golden ticket. So that's exciting. Again, when we can say more, we absolutely will, because we're really excited about it. But it'll offer something a little bit different.
Definitely keep an eye out for that. The next one comes from Ben Nicholson. He says, fantastic success on the launch of the Seniors Tour. Would you consider bringing an event to Blackpool for us Northerners? Plus, Blackpool in general is a great location with plenty of hotels for ticket holders and players alike, and great venues for the event, such as the Winter Gardens.
He's already incredibly lucky in that I think shortly coming up, the world of darts moves to Blackpool, doesn't it, for their match play? So I think Blackpool is one of, I would say, dozens of seaside type resorts, which would be fantastic for a seniors darts event. As I say, I think Blackpool at the moment is home to one of the biggest darts events of the year. So he probably gets the opportunity to go and watch some darts. As I say, the venue, the Winter Gardens, is a tremendous venue. As is there are literally dozens and dozens of venues all around the country which could host darts, and I'm sure we'd get similar support.
The next one comes from Harry Briggs. I'm interested to get your views on this. Were you disappointed not to have the World Seniors Champion gain entry into the Grand Slam of darts, considering in the snooker the Seniors Champ gets into the Champion of Champions?
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, because I think you're comparing two things that can't really be compared. In snooker, my World Senior Snooker has an affiliation with the World Snooker Tour, in that we both share partners being the governing body of the sport. So, there's a natural kind of partnership there already. And we are, in effect, in the World Senior Snooker, they are rewarding people generally who are already members of their tour. In darts, it's slightly different. We don't have an official affiliation to the PDC. How wonderful would it be if that somewhere down the line our champions do get rewarded? Because I think our champions would add commercial value to their events. But as I say, disappointment's not the right word, because there is no expectation. We are separate sort of bodies doing our own thing at the moment, and as I say, they pretty much sell out every venue they go to, don't they? So whether I doubt having a seniors champion invited is on their cards at the moment. I mean, you'd have to correct me in the wrong. Did the WDF champion get invited?
No, that's the same as well. No WDF.
Oh, right. So it's not like one particular darting body's being treated any different. So I think we'd love to work with the PDC down the line on opportunities like that for our champions, but they don't owe us anything, and they certainly do a very, very good job at running their own events.
We'll keep an eye out in the future. And the last of our listener questions comes from Lunguster, who says, is there any non-PDC player who he'd like to see join the seniors who hasn't as yet? And are there any plans for a pairs tournament?
Non-PDC player. You see, now you're testing my darting knowledge, because I'm probably not the right promoter to be asking about that. I mean, there must be players out there who wouldn't it be great if they were picking up their darts and playing competitively again. Also, it's not for everyone. A lot of these guys who might say it'll be great to see XYZ play again, they probably don't have the game anymore, or willing to put in the practice to do it. And this is the problem. You also have to protect legacy as well. And I think that a few players have certainly found it a lot tougher than they thought it was going to be. So, the beauty of this tour is that the only barrier is age. So no matter, anyone can enter one of our qualifiers and get a place. And that, we've had decorated champions playing the qualifiers. And we've also had players who probably were county Super League club players. So the opportunities out there for everyone for that. Right, what was the second part? Sorry, I've rattled on.
Do you have
there was two parts to the question, wasn't it?
Do you have any plans for a pairs tournament?
Oh, a pairs tournament. Honestly, no. But I mean, as I say, it's not. I like the idea of in snooker many years ago. I did the Legends Cup, which was a Ryder Cup format. We would do England, rest of the world, England, Ireland, things like that, and that was tremendously successful. So who's to say down the line that sort of event excites me? If you had like 3 or 4 in a team and they were playing doubles and singles as a team. As I say, I know, I think Australia won a pairs type of event recently where they played doubles in some rounds and then singles, things like that. So it's obviously something that's worked for the PDC. So who knows? I mean, the one thing we'll never do is stop listening and learning, and if we can, we'll do it.
And lastly, before we let you go, just a look ahead really. We've just had the third and the final TV event from the seniors this past weekend in Hull, but that's not it for the seniors tour this year. What else is coming up before we close the book on 2022?
Yeah, so we have an Open Series event at the end of the month. I know, and there's one more Open Series event before we go into the big one, the qualifiers in November again, which will be for the Tavern 2023. So next season's calendar is beginning to take shape. The idea, if we can, is that there will be activity every month in 2023, be that a major TV event or a qualifier or an Open Series event. The Open Series events are really important for ranking points and money lists, but also, we've created a Super Saturday in all of them. So now, you win that event on the Saturday. It's a minimum £1,000 for the winner. So, we've upped that as well. So, but we also understand that, players have so much to play in now. Darts is in a great place with so many tours and activity going on. And we've got to make sure that if you're over 50 and you're not on that PDC tour, that we want you to choose the World Seniors Tour and commit to that. So to do that, we have to make sure we have enough activity going on to keep people interested and enough prize money to make it worthwhile for them travelling to come.
Well, Jason, it's always a pleasure to get you on the show. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on the first year of the World Seniors, all the events that we've had, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the year and what's to come in 2023 as well.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your support.